Whether you've been following my channel and this is the 6th episode for you, or that you're a newcomer and this is your first episode, welcome to episode 6. Today is where the rubber meets the mode. God, that was going to be like such a cool intro. I was going to be like, where the rubber meets the road. And yet instead I was like Clark Griswold. Eat my rubber. All right. Today is where the rubber meets the road. Basically, we're going to put everything together. We've already memorized all the patterns, right? We may not be really perfect at them or whatever, but we've memorized all 5 patterns of the minor pentatonic scale. And today what we're going to do is we're only going to, and for this entire week, we're only going to work on shape 2. And I'll tell you why. Because we're going to be masters. We're not just going to know these patterns. We're going to be masters. We will master the minor pentatonic and know it inside and out, backwards and front. So let's get started. Over the next 4 weeks, we're going to concentrate on each of the shapes individually. So for this week, it'll be shape 2. Now you might have noticed, I hope you noticed, we skipped shape 1. Well, that's because I already have shape 1 so down pat that I can pretty much do it in my sleep. And I don't want to waste any more time and effort on it. Actually, that's what got me here so frustrated, is the fact that I know shape 1 so well, and I've always wanted to know the other positions, but I never took the time to work on them because I always fell back on shape 1. So I'm purposely skipping shape 1. Now, if you're not comfortable with shape 1, if you're kind of new to this or something, or you really want to ramp up shape 1 too, you can apply these same exact principles to shape 1. So you can just do a week of doing shape 1, and then next week, watch this video again and move on to shape 2. But just make sure that you already have all 5 shapes memorized and at least a good working knowledge of them before stepping through this doorway. So what do we need for this one? Well, we need a timekeeper, timer, phone with or a watch with a chronograph, and a metronome is really important, as we've talked about in earlier episodes. And I'll use my freeze pedal. You guys might be wondering what that is. EHX makes this pedal called a freeze pedal, and it's actually pretty awesome because I like to have, so if I play a chord, I like to keep that chord, right? I want to keep that chord going while I'm practicing. So look, volume off, and you can still hear that G chord going, right? That's because my freeze pedal is playing that for me. And instead of a backing track, I prefer that. And then what I would do is just have my metronome clicking away with that G in the background. And what that G does is not only because it makes it a little less tedious and a little less boring, it also keeps us in tune. Right? Because you're trying to remember that you're playing, oops, I'm starting on 1. Look, see, that's how ingrained I have it. You, though, want to know what pentatonic minor scale you're playing on, and especially after like 15 minutes in or whatever, you kind of lose track of where you are. But this G humming in the background will give us that feel, so that we know that we're staying inside of that key and not making any mistakes. It'll also remind you when you do make mistakes. 7 things that we're gonna do, and what I do is I do them for 3 minutes, which would give me a 20-minute routine. 21, what did I say, 20? What the hell? 21-minute routine, and you can adjust that. If you have more time available to you, like if I have more time, then I'm gonna jump it up to 4 minutes for each of the sequences that we're gonna work on, and 5 minutes. I mean, heck, if you've got 35 minutes available in your practice, remember you got other things that you're practicing and stuff like that, and you're doing your warm-up, right? But I start by saying the bare minimum is 3 minutes on each of these sequences, which would be a 21-minute practice routine. And so I just keep my timer set for 3 minutes. That way I don't have to adjust it. Each time that I start the next thing, bam, just start another 3-minute session. The first thing that we're gonna do is just go over the shape that we already know. And like I've said in previous things, what we wanna do is we wanna start that shape from the high E string because basically, we definitely know it from the low E string to the high E string, which is playing it up. But we want to get in the groove or the feel of starting it down here in where our solos are going to be, right? I mean, normally we're going to be down in here doing our licks anyway. So we want to play that scale that direction first. Then we can go up the scale from there. So we're going to go back and forth, starting on the high side though. And we're going to do that for 3 minutes. I know that's what we've already been doing over the last several weeks, but that's the idea behind mastering it, right? We've got to lock that joker in. So let's just go ahead and get that out of the way for our first 3 minutes to really kind of also warm us up to playing that shape, because the next couple things that we're going to be doing in these sequences are going to be a little bit tougher than that. So we might as well get real comfortable doing that. Oh yeah, and by the way, for extra credit, you always want to sing the notes or the scale degrees, as we've done in the past too, while you're doing that. After we've driven ourselves crazy, and I'm going to turn the timekeeper off because I'm not actually doing these right now. I'm just telling you the things that we're going to do. After we do that, right, the second sequence that we're going to do is going to be to only hit the root notes. And we're going to do 3 minutes of that. And that may sound crazy to you, but remember, the most important note, the nucleus to all of this on this entire fretboard, is the root note of the key we're playing in. And we have to know that like the back of our hand. We talked about this before. So in pattern 1, right, it's really easy, we know. But maybe we're not as good at knowing exactly where the root notes are in the other shapes. But hopefully you've been following me along with me, and a couple weeks back, that's what we did. We worked on the root notes. And so we know that in pattern 2, we've got a root note right here. Ooh, that I almost forgot. Let me just put that up there so that you guys can see the whole time. We'll have the scale pattern of what we're doing, working on pattern 2 of minor pentatonic. So you know that the root note is right here, right? But then there's also a root note down here. So we've got a root note on the D string on the 5th fret, and we've got a root note on the B string on the 8th fret. So, and also always remember to start your timer, or else you'll get like 7 minutes in and realize you didn't start it and you've gone way past your 3 minutes. So you just want to kind of ingrain not only what it sounds like, you want to ingrain the interval of, you know, how, because we're using the B string, we've got to go an extra fret over, and you just want to ingrain with your vision exactly where it is. So we're going to hear it, we're going to feel it, and we're going to see it, and we're just going to do that over and over again for 3 minutes. We're going to drive ourselves nuts with this one. But you have to ask yourself, are you saying that you want to master the minor pentatonic scale? Or are you actually going to master the minor pentatonic scale? And if you are like me and absolutely desire mastering the pentatonic minor scale, then you got to do this stuff, the tedious stuff that is sometimes can actually be pretty brutal. And we'll just do that for 3 minutes. Then the next 3 minutes, sequence 3, is still going to be based around that root, right? So we're going to take that root and we're just going to hit the other pentatonic notes around that root. And kind of always end on the root, maybe give it a little wiggle, a little vibrato. Go ahead and practice your vibrato anyways. And sometimes maybe you want to bend the notes around the root, but then end on the root resolve, right? You're gonna kind of just play around for 3 minutes. So that you get a good feel for where that root is in pattern 2. Lock it in. lock in knowing exactly where the root note is, because it's going to be the key to everything in our future for minor pentatonic and all of the other scales that we'll be learning in the future. Okay, so now we've bored ourselves to death, but here's the good news. We went ahead and ate our frog first. Do you guys know that one? I don't know if it was Benjamin Franklin or if that's an urban myth, but somebody a long time ago said, eat your frog for breakfast or eat your frog first. And the idea behind that is, no one wants to eat a frog, right? But we all have frogs in our lives that we have to eat. So don't put it off to the end, because if you put it off to the end, you may not do it. Do it right away. And that's what we just did. We got the boring stuff out of the way up front, right? Because now we're gonna do the fun stuff. Well, anyway, I mean, it's more fun. All right, so this next part is interval jump. Often it'll be fourths. As you recall, with the minor pentatonic and the boxes that we use, there are only 2 notes on each string, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to play from where we start, our starting note, and we're going to come back to where we started. Then we're going to go over to the very next note and go down and play another interval down. So the way that this works is, and you're going to do that all the way down in your scale. Basically what you're doing is, instead of just going down the scale, we're actually adding some extra notes along the way. And we'll go all the way down and all the way, or all the way up and all the way back down. I'm still trying to teach myself that. And that's going to be what we're going to do for our fourth section of this. And that's a sequence, basically, because we're no longer just going right in the exact scale. Instead, we're doing additional things inside of there. And for whatever reason, that tends to be called a sequence in all of the books that I have and everything. So that's the next part that we're going to do. And that's a heck of a lot more fun than only hitting the root note. All right, the next step, step 5, is similar, except now we're just going to play double notes when we're going down. And this makes it a little bit tougher too. However, because we've got 2 notes to string, if we do alternate picking, it actually becomes pretty natural pretty quick. So basically you would just go, I guess it would help if I turn the volume up. So you would just hit a double note on each one your whole way down the scale. And then you do the same thing coming back the other way. And you're going to do that for 3 minutes straight. Just bang it out, man. Just hitting those doubles. And what that does is it sort of interrupts your pattern. Instead of just being locked into that zombie mode of just going up and down and not paying really any attention to what you're doing, you have to actually think about it. You know what I mean? So that's why we're going to do that. And then the next sequence or pattern that we're going to do is called in threes or triplets. And what we're going to do is we're only going to hit 3 notes in a row, and you can do it in a triplet. If you don't know a triplet, basically on your beat, you know, you're going to count a triplet inside of your beat. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet would be how you do that. And it would be 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And the reason why we're going with triplets is because we're doing 3 notes. And so you'll want to do that counting with your timekeeper, but I'll show you what we're doing here. So you're just, think of it as every position is going to be 1 through 12 in this scale, because we've got 12 different notes that we're going to hit in a box, right? Because there's 2 per string, 6 strings, 12. I'm a math genius. All right, so you just go 1, 2, 3, right? And then you're going to start at 2 and go 2, 3, 4. And then you're going to start at 3, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to start at 4. So you you're gonna do that the whole way, and then you'll also do it coming back up. And so basically what you're doing is you're just hitting 3 notes and then going back a step in your scale and starting it from that point and hitting 3 notes. And you just do that the whole way through. Again, what we're doing is we're kind of mixing it up, right? Because we're so used to just going do, 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 and all the way down, and all the way up and all the way down. And we want to mix that up because we really want to spend the time to make not only our muscle memory remember this shape, right? But we want to also visually memorize it, orally memorize it with the hearing, right? And we want it ingrained in our memory, like locked in there. And the real good way of locking anything in your memory with something like this is remembering it in several different ways, even though you're still dealing with the same thing. We've got the same box, right? All the same notes, but we're doing it in different ways over and over again, and that's what's gonna lock it in. All right, the last one is kind of my favorite, and I got this from a guy who's helping me with my playing. And what it is it's basically similar to that triplets one, except for we're going to hit 4 notes. And the difference is we're going to hit those 4 notes twice, and then we're going to move on. So it'll go something like this. And you'll go all the way up and all the way back down. So you saw what I was doing there, right? I'm just basically taking the pattern, playing the first 4 notes of it, but then I go right back up to 1, and I play the first 4 notes again. Then I start at the next string, and I go, do it twice, and then I start at the next string. And you do that the whole way up and down for 3 minutes. All right, so that's all 7 sequences or things that we're going to be working on with our pentatonic minor. By the way, I'm still staying in G minor, like we talked about from earlier sessions, because I'm just really ingraining at this stage G minor into my head. Later on, I'm going to move to other keys. 2 things, though, to talk about, because I always love doing extra credit or whatever anyway. But one thing is, this week, while you're noodling or soloing, like we've talked about in the past, just do pattern 2. I'm talking eliminate all the other patterns for this week in your mind, except for maybe your routine startup of your practice or whatever. I would recommend, and I'm going to do all 5 patterns just briefly because I don't want to ever step away from those until I've completely mastered it. But stick with pattern 2. Do your solos and your noodling with that. And then the second thing is to dream about pattern 2. Now that may sound weird to you, but I'm a firm believer, like the things that you're thinking about and the things that you're doing just as you're going to sleep are things that will be thoughts in your mind throughout the night while you're sleeping. Stay with me on this. Right as you're going to bed, right? Remember when we were kids and we counted sheep or whatever we counted and we just tried to find ways to fall asleep? Well, let's do the same thing, except for let's count root, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, and let's think about that pattern. Let's think about pattern 2 in our heads. Like, just imagine exactly where your fingers would go. Picture your fretboard big in front of you, ominous, kind of just smashing you. No, don't picture that part. But seriously, think about it, visualize it, and I guarantee you it'll put you to sleep. and then you'll be sleeping with that last thought on your mind. There's the dogs telling me it's time to end. So I guess we're going to end it there. Do me a favor though, like and subscribe, and absolutely comment below and let me know how your journey's coming along and what you think of these lessons. Thanks, I'll catch you next week.